everyone. I am back with our final fall broadcast. My name is Ranger Allie, and we're actually in a new location today. We are at Crescent Rock Overlook, so we're at a west-facing overlook, which is really exciting. We haven't been here before, so thank you for joining us. We're going to do things a little bit differently today just because we have so much to go over with some of the smoke effects that we've had in the park, wrapping up our fall broadcast, and then also we have an exciting weekend coming up for Veterans Day. So we're going to go over our peak check first. We're going to thank those volunteer photographers that have been with us through the season. We're going to go over some weekend tips, and then we have a special guest that is going to join us at the end. Remember that if you have any questions throughout the broadcast, you can share those in the comments, and we're going to answer those at the end. So let's start with our peak check. Unfortunately, in the higher elevations, we are seeing less and less leaves, certainly due to not only the end of the season, but because it is so windy up here, and it's been like that for quite some time. So if you are in the park, do not fret. As we were driving up here, we were still seeing so much color in the lower elevations, especially from the overlooks. So you're gonna see a lot of those golden oranges and deep reds that are kind of hanging out at the lower elevations of the park and in the valleys of the communities that surround the park. So you have not missed anything yet. Definitely take advantage of this weekend. It's gonna be great weather. So we hope to see you out here for the final gasp of fall. It's so gorgeous, and we're so glad if you did come out here this fall. It was one of the most spectacular shows we've had. Certainly so much color. So hope that you can still get a brief experience of that this weekend. We do want to thank our volunteer photographers we've had this season. That was something new that we did, and we are so glad we did because they gave us so many great photos, and you can see all of those on our website in our 2023 fall gallery. I'm going to thank the volunteers that helped us this year. So we have Laura Ellis, who actually works at our gift shop in the visitor centers. We have Erica Stevens, Peter Forrester, Richard Hayden, Janet Rigoni, and Dave Keel. And Dave really wanted to join us today. However, he was on a trip that took him out of the state. So we actually invited him to create a video to share a little bit about his experience that he had in the park this year, as well as some tips for anyone who's interested in photography. And you can take these tips well into the next season and winter. So we're gonna go ahead and share that with you now.
The lighting. I do have a very strong affinity and love of rocky outcrops. Hello, I'm Dave Keel. I recently retired, and this is the first of hopefully very many volunteer experiences for both the National Park Service, National Forest Service, and the BLM. I really enjoyed this being my first, and I know I'll do a lot more after this. This gave me an opportunity to get me out a lot more, explore Shenandoah a lot more deeper than I have in a while, go back to places I haven't been to in a long time, and take a lot of fall foliage color pictures, which are some of my favorite pictures. So what are my favorite locations in Shenandoah? It really kind of depends on my mood, the weather, and the lighting. I do have a very strong affinity and love of rocky outcrops, high mountain summits and stuff like that, where you get the really spectacular views. I do have a preference for them. However, I also love moving water, cascades, waterfalls. So I did actually both of these on my hikes and stuff when I was doing this project. Really enjoyed going back to White Oak Canyon, as well as reclimbing Old Rag, because I haven't climbed Old Rag in a long time. If I had to pick a favorite for this particular trip, I would say it would have been Old Rag, because it's always a fun hike. It's a fantastic view up there. If I could offer one suggestion to improve your ability to take good pictures, it's very simple. Slow down, think about what you're trying to shoot, what story you're trying to tell, what image you're trying to create, and then compose it and eliminate in your composition things that distract from the picture. If you just do that, they'll come out much better. I'd like to close out by just saying I had a blast. I hope to be back and do this again sometime, and thank you very much. Hello, I'm Dave Keel. A recent
All right, thank you so much, Dave. We really enjoyed having you this season. We loved looking at all your photos, and we hope you can do it again next year as well. All of those volunteer photographers that I named earlier are going to be receiving a gift as an appreciation of our thanks for the season. So thank you all again. So this weekend on Saturday is Veterans Day, and it is also a fee-free entry to all national park site. And we actually have a organization that has been here before, Project Healing Waters, which serves wounded members of service, and they are going to be at Bird Visitor Center, or the Visitor Center at Big Meadows, from 9 until 4:30 on Saturday, and they're going to be doing some fly fishing demonstrations and some tie flying demonstrations as well, and they're going to talk a little bit about their organization. If you're interested to know more, you can certainly look them up on their website. They have all sorts of great information there. Also, if you are a veteran or an active military member, you can request to have a free annual military pass, which is available for current U.S. military members and their dependents. And there's also a free lifetime military pass, which is available for Gold Star families and U.S. military veterans. So that's just another extension of our appreciation for your service. So thank you very much. We have some closings coming up on Sunday, November 12th. That will be Elk Wallow and Big Meadows Wayside. And the lodge at Big Meadows did close a little bit earlier just because of the power outage we had due to the fire. So that is closed, and you'll see that reflected on our website for other operating hours. For more upcoming closing dates, you can visit our website in the Know Before You Go section. If you look at our operating hours, you'll see more upcoming closing dates. The good news is, though, our picnic grounds are going to be open year-round now. So if you have any interest in coming into the park for a winter picnic, you can certainly do so. But that kind of ties into the thing that we're going to talk about here in a moment. We do have a fire ban, a complete fire ban in the park right now. And that is certainly because of the fire that is occurring near us. And that extends to all huts, shelters, any fires that are in grates, the park-built grates that we talk about frequently, and then fires in the backcountry are always prohibited, but it's just a complete fire ban so that we can make sure that all of the resources that we have for the fire are devoted to the fire. We're also in an extreme drought. We have been for some time. We actually need at least 25 inches of rain before the end of the year to get to our 56 inches of our yearly average. So it's really, really important that when you are in the park not to create a fire. We do have so many people who are working on it, and we'd hate to take them away. You know, they've been devoting so much time and energy to the fire, and so just please help us spread that message and keep the park safe for everybody. So I'm going to invite Margaret Key. Margaret Key is our air resource advisor that has been invited into the park. She has been doing some smoke monitoring just because we're very concerned with our visitor impacts in the park. And so she has been putting up devices which she's going to share with us. And one of them is actually attached to her car, which is why we have it in the shot with us. She's going to talk a little bit about that. Actually, before I get to that, I'm going to add one more bit of information, but you're on camera with us for it. We do have some trail closures that I want to go over. We have closed the Rapidan Camp area near the eastern boundary, and then there are some trails that approach that area that we've also closed. So this includes the Mill Prong Trail, the Mill Prong Horse Trail, Stony Mountain Trail, Fork Mountain Trail, Laurel Prong Trail from Cat Knob intersection, the Upper Dark Hollow Falls Trail, but that does not impact access to Dark Hollow Falls, and then the Lower Rapidan Fire Road, that's beyond the portion that's open to bicycles. And then prior to that, we had some earlier closures, the entire length of Graves Mill Trail from the intersection at Stanton River to Rapidan Fire Road, and then the entire length of the Wilhite Wagon Trail. And that is all because of the fire that now we're going to talk about. So Margaret, thank you for being here with us. I know you've been really busy since you've arrived.
I have been, and I thank you for having me.
Yeah.
The main thing I've been trying to do, I do several things, but one of the things I do is monitor the smoke levels in and around the park. And I order monitors to do that. So on my very first day, I ordered some monitoring devices so that I could tell people what the actual smoke levels are in the park.
Right.
And they've been coming in, and I've been going around and putting them up. So the first monitor that used to be always ordered is called a PM 2.5 smoke monitor. The park has a very similar monitor that operates year-round near Big Meadows. Those monitors are about as big as I am. They're very unwieldy to order and set up. They come in 3 big cases. I think altogether it's about 120 pounds worth of monitor.
Wow.
Lots of connections to be made, and the monitors like that cost in the thousands of dollars. There is a national supply of them just for forest fires all across Wildland Fire. So I got one of those. It's in Madison. But within the last few years, we have also found that this is a brand, purpleair.com, but there are other companies, so I can't endorse a single company. But there are smaller, I would call this a sensor and not a monitor. If you want to see what the air quality is anywhere across the United States, you can go to airnow.com, or I just tell people, especially if they're interested in fire, Google the fire and smoke map.
Okay.
And you can pull that up and see. So this is like in the $300 range. And a lot of health departments maybe buy them to put on their own buildings, so communities have them. Or you can get one individually if you look for low-cost sensor. This is the absolute latest and greatest. This is called Vehicle Add-on Mobile Monitoring System.
I'm sure there's an acronym for that.
VAMS. This is the VAMS. And all of the air resources advisors love the VAMS because we spend a lot of time when there's a fire looking for where the worst smoke is so we can caution people about precautions to take. And this lets me drive along. It measures the smoke while I'm driving. There's a computer chip in there. When I get back to my office, I can take out the SD card and put it in my computer, and it will show me what the smoke level was everywhere I went all day while that was running.
That's
Is that
incredible.
not cool?
Wow.
So that helps me decide which place is the smokiest and where should I really put my monitors.
Okay, so I was going to ask, where are some of the locations that you've chosen in the park or surrounding communities?
So we put one in Luray
Okay.
because we could kind of tell through smoke modeling and watching the satellite that Luray was getting hit with some smoke. So we put one there yesterday. Even though the park has air monitors at Big Meadows, I put one of these inside the visitor center at Big Meadows. Because
Inside.
And usually one of the things we tell people that have health concerns about smoke is to stay inside because the air is usually cleaner, especially if you have air conditioning or heating and you've got a filter on it. But with the power outage at Big Meadows in the visitor center, they don't have filtered air. And we were hearing from employees that the air inside was sometimes worse than outside. So I put one of these there, and sure enough, you can see that when the smoke is dense at Big Meadows, inside and outside air is pretty much equivalent. But then if the smoke moves along outside, it's stuck in the visitor center for a little while. So we just recommended, you know, put some N95 masks on if you have to work in that. Or maybe let the rangers stand outside and talk to people if it's pretty.
Yeah, oh, it's been pretty. It's been great weather this week as far as temperature-wise. So on a day like today, when it's really, really windy, how does that affect the smoke and where it kind of hangs out and where you see it in the park?
So wind is really good for, we call it dispersion, like just taking the smoke particles and spreading them out and sending them other places. So usually don't have very high smoke levels when it's windy. When the wind dies down, the smoke tends to just hang. It's kind of opposite from what the firefighters want to see. You know, they like a nice still day.
Absolutely.
So that they can work. But when the wind picks up, people get a break from the smoke.
Right.
And I just tell them when the smoke comes back, don't feel too bad about it because that's probably advantageous for the firefighters.
Yeah. So what are some of the areas of concern in the park?
A special area of concern would be right there at Big Meadows, because the fire is just to the east of Big Meadows. So anything from Big Meadows east to the boundary. And we've cautioned people particularly about the Old Rag Trail and the White Oak Canyon Trail, because those are strenuous trails. So I always tell people 3 things determine your exposure to smoke. And even if you're not a math person, you can probably remember this equation. So it's the concentration of smoke, how bad it is, the amount of time you spend in it, and the volume of air that you breathe. You can actually, even if it's smoky, you can reduce your personal concentration by wearing an N95 mask. You can make up your own mind how much time you want to spend in that, unless you're working, and then wear a mask. But volume, people may not realize, if you're really working hard on a trail to climb up a mountain, you can be pulling 7 to 10 times as much air and as many smoke particles into your lungs.
Wow.
As if you're going along on level ground, easily walking or downhill.
Yeah.
So really does make a difference to reduce your exertion level. And that's why we tell people to keep their children inside when it's smoky, because even if you don't have filtered air, they're less likely to run in the house.
Yeah.
And so they're not breathing as much air, and they get
Certainly.
less smoke.
Yeah. So what are some other people who should, like, I know some people are more sensitive than others to smoke. So what kinds of concerns do you have about that, and what concerns should those people have?
So we actually put out a smoke outlook or forecast, and it has suggestions for how to mitigate effects of smoke depending on how concentrated it is and how sensitive you are. And one of those groups is called for sensitive groups. So the sensitive group would include elderly people. I qualify. I think they actually, it might be 60, but certainly by the time you're 62 or 65, you start to, most people lose some lung function. So elderly, if you have any kind of lung concern, so asthma or COPD, if you have heart disease, smoke puts, anything respiratory puts additional load on your heart. And then what people might not think about is the children, because you think they're so healthy, but their lungs are still developing, so it's really important for them to not be exposed. And then most people don't know this, but pregnant women need clean air, because the baby needs a good oxygen supply, just like they need good food and vitamins.
Right. So we actually have on our website, we have a link on the Quaker Run fire information. You'll see it in the alerts section as soon as you arrive at our website, and if you click on more, we have daily updates about the fire and what the visitors should know before they arrive at the park, and we have a link to one of the air monitoring websites that you have been, I think, contributing to. So you guys can get all that information about the smoke levels and air quality levels in the park. If you all have any questions at this time, you can put those in the comments, and Margaret and I are here to answer. Let's see. I don't see any right now. Margot's watching. Margot works in the park, so I'm going to say hello to Margot. Let's see.
I have a friend who calls me Margot. So.
Oh, that's so cool.
I will say that in the park, in general, the air quality has been pretty good. And there are times of day that are worse than others in certain places, but it's usually for a few hours. Smoke tends to settle at night and go to lower elevations. So up here on the Skyline Drive, it's usually good air quality at night. And then along about noon, late morning, noon, early afternoon, the smoke tends to rise. So the people down in the valleys who've had smoke all night get cleaner air, but it comes up here. And so if you're at Big Meadows or hiking, those late morning, early afternoon hours are when you're probably the most likely to see smoke. You might occasionally see it at night, but that's the most likely.
Yeah.
And then it's pretty clear. And the northern and southern ends of the park are seeing pretty consistently good air quality.
So that's what we've been communicating to some of the visitors. If you are here and you want to do some hikes, just go to the northern or southern sections of the park. We have more than 500 miles of trails that you can venture out on. So just avoiding the central section at this time is probably a good idea if you're concerned about the smoke levels. Yep. So, Shenandoah National Park is beautiful. I agree.
Me too.
Well, I don't see any questions. We are going to monitor this broadcast after we're done, and so we'll look at the comments throughout the day. So if you do have any questions after watching this for myself or for Margaret, we'll be more than happy to answer. I know you'll probably be in the park going around and checking all of your sensors and talking to visitors, but I'll try and connect with you if we have a good question for you.
Okay, great.
Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
And thank you for being here. We really need you, so this is great.
It is my pleasure,
Yeah.
and thanks to Shenandoah National Park for concern for everybody's respiratory health.
Yeah. All right then. Thank you all so much for joining us for our fall 2023 broadcast. We are definitely going to be back next year, and we are already looking forward to it. We are hoping to do these monthly, so we are going to see you very soon. We're going to talk about the winter. All right. Take care, y'all. Bye.